I want to do a brief talk about Rollo Tomassi and the reasons I think he's one of the biggest frauds in the modern self-improvement, self-help sphere. So basically, my thesis or whatever on him is that firstly, he claims to be the rational male. I would say he's more like the rationalizing male, or the male who helps lonely incels rationalize their hurt feelings. This being said, I do want to add a preamble to this and say that what he's talking about, a lot of it is true. And it's better to know the truth, obviously. It's better to know the facts about people's innate predispositions than to be caught unaware of them when you're 35. And that was pretty much the only good thing I have to say about it. Also, pretty much everything that he has to learn, or that you have to learn from him, you can get in a week of watching his videos. Everything more than that is not helpful, I would say, because the advice of evolutionary psychology applied to dating, which is basically what he preaches, is, like I said, it's better to have it than not to have it. The problem with what he does is that there's not enough content in evolutionary psychology to tell people how to have a good relationship. And that's ultimately why people are wanting those videos, in theory, right? Because what's the point of learning the facts of human biology and evolutionary psychology and people's preferences? In theory, it would be to have a more functional relationship in your life. Unfortunately, the amount that evolutionary psychology has to teach you about that, like I said, it can basically be learned in a week. It's not complicated. Evolutionary psychology doesn't actually have too much to say about people's mating preferences because it's fairly shallow, and often it's very easy to slip into a rationalizing mode where you're sort of hiding behind the facts of the matter, and you have attachment issues, and what's going on is you're using the facts, quote unquote, and statistics to rationalize attachment issues. And that's how these people are extorting their fan base effectively. Because what does evolutionary psychology really have to say about mating? It says, okay, well, men basically value looks on the whole, for the most part. I'm not saying all men do, but if you pick a random guy out of the population and you ask him the most important thing about a female, oftentimes, especially if he's younger, he'll say that their looks are very important. Young single guy, makes sense. Women get pregnant, they need more resources. They're looking for a guy that they don't have to support, that the guy can support themselves and help out around the house and that kind of thing, and is competent and tall and all that stuff, and somebody they feel safe around. And that's basically what evolutionary psychology has to say. And everything else is a rationalization of bad behavior, effectively, that Rollo Tomassi teaches. So, the other thing about evolutionary psychology is it doesn't actually tell you what to do with the information once you have it. So, if you look at marriages and you say the marriage stats and you're like, oh, half of all marriages end in divorce. Well, okay, does that mean your marriage has to? Are you going to outsource your own personal responsibility to statistics? Maybe. But I wouldn't call that rational. I would call that a rationalization and hiding from emotional pain. So that's a big deal. The idea that the facts do not tell you what to do with the facts. Also, if enough people individually got their act together, those facts, those statistics, those sociological polls they would change very quickly. They're not like biological imperatives. They're not written in stone. And that doesn't necessarily mean they have to apply to you. Statistics do not apply to the individual. They're just statistics. And I think if Rollo Tomassi had an ounce of spine, he would stop extracting time, energy, emotional energy, and resources from these lonely men with attachment issues. And what he would do is start trying to teach people how to have better relationships. Because the concept of, there's only so many times you can say, all right, you need to not be useless. It's like these guys can get what they need from a motivational video, but he's got a quota to fill. He's got to get views. He's got to keep producing content. So what does he do? What does he do? He slips into saying, men value love, women love value. It's like, great. You have reduced all women to one, like, unidimensional thing, and you're saying that all women are incapable of love. But here's the kicker, right? This guy is saying that with a wedding ring tied around his neck. He's fucking married. So what does that tell you about him being a hypocrite? The fact that he's willing to, like, basically justify hurt young men's emotional responses to painful breakups and divorces, all while being married. He's saying that women are incapable of love while he's married. And not to mention, this guy sounds like he's having a panic attack at every single moment of his podcast. It's like the dude repeats himself. You know, when people are constantly repeating themselves in arguments, that's a sign of stress-related brain damage. Like, this is not a healthy person to be listening to. So, you know, forming your opinions about relationships based on sociological polls, mostly cherry-picked sociological polls used to justify men with attachment issues and to tell them that it's the women's fault and that women are biologically incapable of loving them and all this stuff. You know, Rollo Tomassi is basically a crooked little freak. And I don't really think he has any business claiming to be rational. As I said, he should change. If he had an ounce of spine, he would teach people how to have better relationships, how not to lie, how to get over their pain, swallow their trauma, and learn how to not fall into the same pit next time. And, you know, there's only a certain amount that evolutionary psychology can tell you about that. You know, most people watching this, just kind of content, Rollo Tomassi, fresh and fit, all that stuff. You know, they don't need a rational male guru with a ponytail who's got a wedding ring around his neck telling you not to get married and telling you that all women are gold diggers and that kind of thing and how to hook up with hoes. They just need therapy, you know. They need to talk about their pain with somebody and figure out how not to lie and figure out how to parse out female psychopaths and gold diggers from the people who aren't. Because I'm going to tell you right now, statistically speaking, if you're into stats, most women aren't gold diggers, most women aren't sociopaths, and women are capable of love. So that's about all I had to say on that.